right here. So I know it's out in New Zealand already. It's now out globally, but this is the newest Ardbeg in the range. So this is our 5-year-old Ardbeg. There's a few reasons. So we kind of like being controversial, or not so much controversial, but kind of bucking trends in the whiskey industry. Ardbeg is always a little bit different. So it's super smoky, but at the same time as being super smoky, it's also a very sweet and very balanced whiskey. We tend to have a lot of our products, our cheapest product for the longest time was the 10-year-old, even though it was the only one that had age. But again, we've just tried to do something that's completely different. And what we're doing here is making this whiskey the Wee Beastie. The reason it's called Wee Beastie, so it's a sort of term in Scotland, you know, a bit of a monster. And it's because when you make Ardbeg, the smokiest Ardbeg you'll ever get, people tend to get hung up on the ppm, which makes sense, how many phenols were on the malt. But that's just how smoky you make the spirit. The maturation process of Ardbeg, actually it's slow, but slowly over time, you see the smoke start to drop away. So if you've been lucky enough to taste the 19-year-old Ardbeg, the Trivan, you'll notice that, although it's still a big smoky whiskey, it's less smoky than a 10, for example. It's more elegant and it has more roundness, and it's because longer maturations of Ardbeg actually take away some of the more intense smokes and make it an altogether more approachable sort of smoky whiskey. And with this one, with the Wee Beastie, we're deliberately turning it on its head. So that's why we thought it was super important to put an age statement on it and to let people know that this is a young, untamed beast of a whiskey. So making it half the age of the Ardbeg 10 makes it way smokier, because you're just not given much opportunity for any of the smoke that we've added to this spirit on Islay. You're not given much opportunity for it to escape and get out into the ether. You're keeping it all in. And it's almost like, you know, when this bottle gets bottled, it's shaking, you know, because everything's trying to escape. It's kind of like a whiskey that's alive, basically. Hopefully you're nosing and tasting away at the Ardbeg Wee Beastie right now. And what you should be noticing at that 5-year-old and 47.4% ABV, you should pick up that it is sort of a grade up in terms of smokiness. So that smoke could present as wood smoke. It should be quite medicinal, something like antiseptic lozenges coming through on the nose. Quite salty as well, so sea salt or just that kind of maritime sea air freshness should come through. But quite quickly, you will pick up there's a sweetness in there as well. You get something, you know, red chilies mixed together with sort of chili-infused chocolate, possibly, and maybe even a little bit of coffee in there as well. And the reason for that is this whiskey is matured in ex-bourbon barrels, like Ardbeg 10, but it also has quite a large proportion, larger than you would probably expect, proportion of Oloroso sherry matured Ardbeg, fully matured in Oloroso sherry. And what it's doing is it's kind of in the background. These Oloroso sherries are kind of holding the beast together, holding it from escaping, because my original ambition for this whiskey is I wanted to make it 3 years old, and I wanted it matured only in ex-bourbon barrels that had been refilled. So I wanted to make this like the rawest Ardbeg ever. That was the initial idea. But in truth, every time I tasted the 3 versus the 5 just came out better. And with a little bit of sherry influence, with a reasonable package of sherry, you kind of take away any edges that are so rough that they might be unpleasant. But what you do leave behind is you still leave behind this kind of untamed, big, bold expression of Ardbeg. Should get, you know, pepper and sea salt, medicine and smoke, chili, some chocolate. It's an amazing whiskey, we think, and it just shows how Ardbeg is so different and so individual in a world of very similar malts. Younger can be better, older can be more refined. It just sort of bucks the trend for all kind of whiskies. So you'll see with this whiskey that priced younger than the 10. So I know we're getting a lot of really positive responses for how well priced it is. Some people are starting to say, so this is a whiskey designed for cocktails. Now, I guess it is suitable for cocktails because it has that raw power, and also it has a price point, if you went straight into a sort of business sense of it, that bars can make some really good cocktails at good flavour, good prices. But don't forget, this is first and foremost a single malt whiskey from Ardbeg. It is absolutely drinkable neat. It's super enjoyable. It's also great with like one rock of ice. It just makes something incredible happen to this whiskey, in my opinion. I just seen someone ask a question, is anyone getting like a leathery note as well? And yeah, absolutely. There is that kind of something like leather or like antique furniture or like almost like old wooden boats or even like varnish for. It's like a classic phenolic note. So that again is coming from this extra supercharged level of phenols inside this whiskey.